Hi, this is Dan and Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beasley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
I'm Jay. Let's go. From Jay's Way, keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Callan, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy Guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Callan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Tonight's episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals. Fresh, freeze-dried, small-batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. Well, hello and welcome back to CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday evening or afternoon or a great Tuesday in general. My name is Dennis, also known as CANOEHOUND, and if this is your first time showing up to one of our episodes, thanks very much for tuning in. Hopefully we'll turn you into a subscriber by the end of tonight's show. We have a really interesting show in progress here for you. We're going to be talking a lot about backcountry meals, sharing some ideas, getting you all ready for the upcoming paddling season. But before we get into tonight's topic and our guests on panel, just got a few announcements. And tonight's going to be a really quick announcement segment here. There's not a lot to report as far as news is concerned, but we do have a few things. Starting with next week, many of you have reached out to me by email, as I always ask, if you have any show ideas or things that you'd like to see on the show. And so many of you have asked about first aid in the wilderness, backcountry first aid and things of that sort. Well, it's finally going to happen. Next week, we are going to have on the show Doug Bird from Global Emergency Medical Consultants and Training. And we're going to be talking all things first aid, trying to really stress the importance of one, having a really good first aid kit, but secondly, knowing how to use that in backcountry situations. We'll talk about obviously all the importance of, either having a first aid training or wilderness first aid training or some sort of training under your belt in case the stuff hits the fan while you're in the backcountry. And it can happen. It really can. So make sure you mark next Tuesday on the calendar, and hopefully you could tune in and join us. Going to be a fun evening. And you know what? We're all going to learn something very important when it comes to backcountry stuff. I'd like to thank all my Buy Me a Coffee contributors of the week. Beauty of the Backcountry, that's Jay and Sherry. Thanks very much for your continued support. And an anonymous donor, I don't even know who it is, but thank you very much for picking me up a coffee. Let's take a dip, everybody. Cheers. That's awesome. Thank you for the coffees. And then, as I always do every week, I really like to acknowledge my my channel members. You know who you are, but I like everybody else to know who you are as well. So I'm going to have your names just floating across the bottom of the screen there. If anybody ever wants to become a channel member, you want to know what it's all about, down around here somewhere, there's a join button. Feel free to click on that at any time, and you'll see what's available. There's like 4 or 5 packages, including what I put on there just sort of as a joke. And you'll see it if you actually check it out. But by all means, by becoming a member, of course, you will right away, you'll get your channel membership decal. This is something that shows badges according to your, your duration of being a channel member. And if you take a look over there in the chat, and you'll see people that have the little compass roses beside their name. Those are channel members. And you know what? Thank you to each and every one of you. So if you see a little symbol like that in the chat over there, these are channel supporters. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. And on that same note, just to let you know, we only have about, after this episode tonight, 5 more episodes. The end of the season will be concluding at the end of May. So at the end of May, channel members, I plan on recognizing all of you. We're going to be doing a draw. More details are to come for that, but any channel members that are still channel members at the end of at the end of May coming here will be automatically entered into the draw. So you don't have to do anything more, but I will let whoever the winner is, I'll let you know. And also I will fill you in on more details as to what the prizes will be. So thanks very much. You know what, this season wouldn't have gone on if it wasn't for your support, and it's so greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. We do have a couple of birthday wishes. First, a special birthday wish goes out to a good buddy of mine. He's been a friend ever since I started Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. He's a guy who's made me a couple of really cool bushcrafting knives and stuff like that. Dave Boyd from Beastly Ironworks. Really, really early on in the Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show seasons there. Season 1, way, way early on. He was actually a guest on the show. He's gotten to be a very good friend. And unfortunate for me, he's actually moved out east. And so I don't get to see him too often. But Dave, if you happen to watch his show or you happen to tune in, you know what? Thanks very much, for your friendship, man. And happy birthday to you. Also, another birthday wish goes out to another, I call him a brother from a different mother. And I finally met this guy at Canoecopia this year. And that would be C.W. Getz. He's the host of Outdoor People, formerly The Camping Show. He's got a great podcast. If you haven't checked it out, he's been on the show before too. But if you haven't checked out his show, by all means, check it out as well. So C.W., happy 59th birthday to you, my friend. I told you I wouldn't give your age away, but I just did. I called you out on it. If anybody has any special occasions coming up or announcements that they'd like to make that are of a happy nature, drop me an email right here at canoehound@gmail.com, and I would more than happily let everybody know all about it. So you can do that at any time. And also that same email address is very important. If you ever have an idea for a show or a guest you'd like to see on the show, drop me an email. It might not happen this year because we're pretty booked for the month of May. But I will definitely get it into my notepad and get some show ideas going for the 5th season. Yes, yeah, you heard it here first, the 5th season. So next season's Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show, probably with some changes. But we got to get prepared for that. And I'd rather book everything early and enjoy my summer. So Let's do that. And then, of course, you know what? Tonight we have a really cool show. If you have any questions, please do put them in the comment section over there, but just use the word question in capital letters before your question. It makes it more easy for me to identify. And I will star it and I will get it into the show at some point. Or you know what, maybe after the 8 o'clock hour, maybe you'll want to come on and share one of your favorite recipes or a cooking technique or something along that lines with everybody. If it's going to make our job a lot easier in the backcountry when it comes to filling these bellies up, right? So, yeah, showing dandruff here or something. Point. Anyways, that's going to bug everybody tonight, including me. Okay, you know what? That's about it. Let's get on with tonight's topic. We actually do have three very well-versed people on here that kind of know their stuff when it comes to cooking in the backcountry. We're going to start with, somebody whose book that I reference quite often when I'm dehydrating foods, and that would be Mr. Kevin Wright. He's the author of
Hello.
Country Eats. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dennis. How are you?
Oh, living the dream. I'm out of practice. I didn't have a show last week, and I'm tripping over my own tongue already. So
I'm sure we'll be all right. I'm sure
we will be all right. Will be all right. The next person that I'm going to bring up on stage is somebody who's been on the show quite often. Some of her meals that she cooks in her videos it floors me. She likes the fresh food, but she also likes the freeze-dried meals that she also gets from OTG Meals. Our good friend Randy, who unfortunately couldn't be on the show tonight. But you know what? Let's just bring her up on panel, and this would be Camper Christina. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I seen you waving one too.
I got one. My whole desk is just full of stuff, so I can just grab things.
Awesome. That's great. Christina's got some features that she puts on her channel called Camper Christina Cooks. Is that right?
Yeah, I have over 50 videos in the playlist.
There you go. So, yeah, there's some great references. And then last but not least, this guy, everybody, he doesn't need an introduction, obviously. He's on the show quite often, but this guy also knows how to cook in the backcountry. Our good friend, Kevin Callan. Oh, my gosh. That's better than a Bob Ross mug.
Nice.
My daughter got that to me for Christmas, and she knows me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So you all ready to share some great food tips with everybody today? Cool. Okay, so just so that we're not all over the place, I thought I would just kind of break the show up into a little bit of segments. We'll start with making a meal plan for an adventure, whether it's a regular front country camping trip in your car or going into the backcountry. Where do we start? How do we plan our meals? Kevin, I'll let you start with this one. Oh,
how do we plan?
Kevin.
This Kevin. You caught me. How do we plan meals? Well, who's going? What do they like to eat? How long are you going for? Do you have any dietary restrictions or limitations in any way? And set up a meal plan. Start deciding what you're going to have and put it together. I dehydrate almost all my own meals. I don't bring very much fresh stuff, so I usually start way ahead of time dehydrating big batches of food and storing them in the freezer so they're ready to go, so that when I do want a meal plan, I can just scoop in and get what I want and get the right amount and go for it.
Mm-hmm. Do you typically use just dehydrated meals when you go? Are you in the freeze dried at all, or more fresh?
I do a bit of freeze dried. I augment with some freeze dried stuff. I've tried the freeze dried chicken and sausage and meat, that kind of stuff. That's probably makes a little more sense. I also use like the freeze dried spices that you can find in grocery stores these days. Those, they just save me a little bit of time, and the flavor is a little bit better sometimes in dehydrated. Spicy stuff in a dehydrator tends to lose its flavor, so I tend to put more spices in a dehydrated meal to compensate, or I'll put the spices in afterwards if they're already dry.
Mm-hmm. How about yourself, Christina? When you're planning a meal plan for yourself, now you typically camp solo, so your meal planning is going to be a little different because you're not accounting for a couple.
My process is really different than Kevin's. Yeah. I would probably, I don't have it written down or anything, but the first thing I think about is what haven't I made before? What would be new and exciting for people to see on video? That's one of the first things I think of. What can I have that's different? I don't want to go out and eat the same things every time I go out on a trip. And then it would be, you know, some of the similar things. How many days are you going out? What's the weather like? What's the temperature? You know, can I bring a lot of fresh food? I like to try to mix things up. I like to bring freeze dried. I like to bring dehydrated. I like to bring fresh. And then it depends on the trip. If I'm doing like a really challenging portaging trip in Temagami, it's going to be a lot of freeze dried and dehydrated stuff, but I still do some of my own as well. I like to mix it up. So I have different things. And then from there, I plan the cookware and what I'm going to bring as far as pots and pans and utensils to go with the food that I need to make. So.
Right. And you also, I noticed that in a lot of your videos, you'll say, oh yeah, this is some leftovers that I had from, you know, a meal a couple of days ago, some roasted chicken or beef or something along that lines. Right.
Yeah.
But, that's always a great idea. It's for the first day or the second day, right? Because you're going to consume it right away.
Oh, does it work? Oh, wait, let me see. I'm going to try to be cool.
I see a screen here. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. Did it work?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's Swiss Chalet. Can you see the whole screen, all the stuff, or just the picture?
I see all the stuff.
Oh, how do you
see? I see all your whole list, but that's cool.
That's good. Whoops! How do I get out of here?
I get out of here. I go like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lunch I brought winter camping. I had Swiss Chalet the day before and had some leftover chicken, so I brought some fresh bread and put the gravy on it. Made a hot chicken sandwich.
And that's a great idea. Why not, right? You already have it at home in the fridge. You don't want it to go to waste. So you're going to bring it and you eat it up the first day. And your preparation is down to a minimum when it comes down to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Kevin? You tend to eat a lot of fresh food.
It all depends how long I go. I just like to say, when I saw the share screen, Christina, what was the video I saw? I love men riding horses. What is that?
There's some that say Kevin, actually. Kevin Drunken Shrimp.
That got banned. It got. I don't get monetized for that video.
It.
Yeah, it's done.
It's on your YouTube. I just
no, it's on there, but we don't get $1.92 every month.
Did you put music in it?
No, because it's Drunken Shrimp.
Yeah. Oh, the word drunken. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of scotch in it.
I don't really use the word drunken in anything I do. Whiskey fireside chats, just nothing to. Anyway, all right. So
I need to learn how this works.
So three things to go with this one. It all depends if you're going by yourself, how many days you're going, who you're going with. But let's say I'm going with a group, and let's say there's actually 6 of us. So there's 3 canoes, 2 per canoe. I've done it, which I prefer. Some people don't. Every canoe is self-sustained in their trip planning for food and their cookery and their stoves, everything else, right? And I like that because it's competitive, it's fun. So the first night, we all make the first meal, and whoever makes the worst meal loses, and they have to give something to the winners, or the winners get a prize. The last meal, whoever makes the best meal of the last night, which is tough, day 7, day 10, whatever, gets a prize as well. I like that. I like doing that with my students because they learn from it. But my regular canoe buddies, so yesterday they all came over and we're planning for our spring trip. No, we don't do that. We Ashley and myself will do one night. Tim will do one night. Mike will do one night. So we'll do all that, and then we'll change over for breakfast. But it's a complete detailed list before we go anywhere. In fact, Ashley, I made it last night, and we don't go until the end of May, right? So we can do that. But yes, the first night we all do fresh. To be quite honest, why not? You have one of these. I have one of these in my barrel, so it's going to be great for 2 or 3 days. To be quite honest, I'll do that, and there's a whole bunch of recipes I can show what we do the first night, and then it comes down to the last night. I dehydrate my own meals I do it a little bit different than Kevin's. Love his book. I just do it different in one sense. I will dehydrate all winter. So I have bins over in my kitchen of peas, carrots, eggplant, whatever. And then I have noodles, couscous, quinoa, and everything else in different bins. So what I'll do is I'll make a package of food in a Ziploc. So I'll get my sauces, like I'll get the spaghetti sauce or salsa sauce, put it in with noodles, put it in with the dehydrated veg, put a bouillon cube, but I've got it written down. It's all on my wall, right? Put it in there, put it in there, put it in there, put it in the barrel, off I go. And then I come back and then I just flip. And I do what Christina said. I'll switch it up. I'm not going to do the same meals the second trip, right? So I'll switch it up. Mm-hmm. And I'll keep doing that. And when I did a whole bunch of guiding routes up north, when I did the guidebooks, I didn't come home for that because it was too expensive to go home. So I would do another barrel of food in my truck. So when I came back from doing the Steel River, I would flip my harness onto the new barrel and I'd go off and do the Chapel Nimicasenda. And I'd come home after 10 days, or I'd come back to my vehicle after 10 days, flip my barrel. Or I'd even have a float plane. When I did a Bidadong, and I went north of that, I had a float plane come in, and they took my old barrel out of garbage, and they brought in my new barrel. Or when I did the Misnabi, I mail ordered that barrel to the post office in Matthijs with my name on it. Got there, flipped that food, tossed everything else in the recycling, and then continued on to James Bay. So, but if I'm doing a weekend, a 2-night, I'm going off on a great tangent about 10, 20-day trips, whatever. But if I did a weekend, I always try something different, for sure. First night's always elaborate meals that are really tasty to entice and everything. I got that from guiding, to be quite honest. When I guided in Temagami and I got on my own, that was a big thing. You had to make really good meals. They were paying good money. I wasn't getting the money. I was just a guide making $60 a day. But you had to make a really good meal. So I made hors d'oeuvres, I made main meal, I made desserts, and everything else, and good breakfast. But do I bring a lot of good veg? I do for the first 3 days. After that, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's harder to transport fresh food unless it's cool, winter camping or something.
Well,
like that.
There's ways to do that though. Like really, if I can carry the weight, there's not a lot of portages. I'm not a long, strong person, so I would dehydrate because of that. But for veg, I would actually, and this might be wrong, but I did it for many years. I would get my my peppers and everything else and soak it in a little bit of bleach in the sink, and that would give me 5 days before that ever went rotten. But also I would bring carrots, onions, and a cabbage with actually vinaigrette salad dressing in a little tube. And on day 7, I would cut that up with carrots and put cabbage, and that would really, really help your gut. Because if you're eating that dehydrated stuff, whether you make it yourself or whether you buy it in a pack, your guts, you need fresh fish and cabbage to clean that out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but now you have to explain something to me.
I find that spinach is your friend.
You would soak peppers in bleach?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Explain that. I've never heard of that.
It would create a cover around the pepper so it wouldn't start biodegrading as quick as possible.
Is that right? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. It works.
Yeah. Kills the bacteria.
People will say, well, Kevin, bleach is bad. I know farmers that put bleach in their well. I put bleach in my well. So, yeah. But it's heavy stuff too. It's heavy stuff. So if you're doing a really multiple portage trip, no, I'm not going to do that by day 5. I don't want to be carrying fresh veg on day 5. Yeah. I don't generally. I know I'm skipping ahead here, whatever. Oh, what a beautiful sunset tonight. Whoa. Anyway, squirrel. I have no problem with those dehydrated packaged meals. I think they're fantastic. I'll put them in for an extra thing if I don't catch fish and stuff like that. They're a lot better than they used to be. I got to tell you, a lot better. I'm 25 years ago. What is that egg? It looks like it's green eggs and ham, right? So that's really good. I like making my own meals. That it comes down to it. It's cheaper. I find it better on my stomach. On day 10, I remember being on the Misnabi River and I was eating dehydrated meals that I purchased, and I had to go, and a bear was walking towards me. I go, I don't care if you kill me right now. I'm finishing what I'm doing right now.
So, Mr. Ride, we'll kind of move on to the next type of thing then. Food types, like you got your fresh, dehydrated, and your freeze dried. You specialize obviously in the dehydrated stuff. What are the biggest differences? I know the process, but what are the biggest differences with the food between dehydrated and freeze drying it?
Oh, there's a good question. There's freeze drying. You can actually freeze dry chunks. So chunks of chicken, chunks of meat can be freeze dried. There's actually freeze dryers out now that people are buying for their homes. They're still very expensive, but I'm starting to see the odd person with the freeze dryer at home. They're about $3,000 US, but it's starting to happen where people are like, hey, I'm going to get this thing and use it for a bit. And if I don't like it, I'll sell it and whatever. Yeah, you can dehydrate chunks. You can you can freeze dry chunks of food. You can freeze dry stuff with higher fat content. I've seen freeze dried ice cream. That's a thing. Yeah, and you get a lot more shelf life out of it. That's for sure. It's much more stable, and it's expensive though, right? The home machines are very expensive, and if you buy some freeze dried meat or chicken or whatever, that bag is going to be pretty expensive. But I buy freeze dried cheese and I add it to some of my food. Just lasts a very, very long time, and I don't like the risks of dehydrating fatty things, but freeze dried cheese, perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Christina, now I know you're like me, you're a fan of the OTG meals.
I am, yes.
Randy does some really good meals. Like I got 3 sitting in front of me here. I got a coconut curry chicken pot pie, and a beef lasagna.
I see your coconut curry chicken, and I match you a coconut curry chicken.
There we go. So we're playing OTG poker here. That's all right. But now, what do you find the biggest differences? Like, do you do a lot of dehydrating yourself?
I don't do a lot of dehydrating. I do really basic stuff. I do spaghetti sauce, sauces in general, fruits and vegetables for like oatmeal and stuff like that. I kind of pick and choose things, and like even the OTG meals, like I was on a trip in Temagami last year, and I wanted to do pancakes, but I didn't want to bring the syrup because syrup is very heavy. So I had this mixed fruit bag of OTG fruit. So I brought that, and I used that to make a sauce with some brown sugar and put that on top of the pancakes. So sometimes I will use like the freeze-dried items and mix them with other things and kind of make combo meals, I guess.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because like even Kevin said, he'll bring some certain freeze-dried stuff because it's a great way to mix them both. And yeah,
perfect example. Randy makes a great beef burrito mix. I don't know if you've tried it. Really good. And then you bring wraps, maybe some sour cream, or some tomatoes, some fresh food, and kind of mix it up so that you've got kind of a bit of each.
Yeah. What about the old steak? The old steak adage. Everybody loves to do the steak and potatoes first night, second night. How long would you go with meat being unrefrigerated?
Depends on the meat.
Yeah. Well, like a steak.
Steak like first day. Probably. I don't think I go longer than that. I brought shrimp once in an ice block, and it didn't make it to the second day, and then I had to carry it out. I was too scared to eat it. So
yeah,
I've
done steak, and like I vacuum seal my steak, right, all spiced up and everything, and then you freeze that not the day before, but like a week or 2 weeks before. So you get that thing as frozen as you can get it, and put it in a coolie bag similar to what Kevin had there. One of the that's Recreational Barrel Works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And put it in something like that, and keep it in the bottom of your pack, and don't expose it. And we've had steak as far as 4 days into a trip.
Wow.
Yes.
Couldn't be like 35-degree days though. Like maybe.
Was that on a winter trip?
September.
No. This is on canoe, like on a canoe trip. I think the longest
I've done chicken
like 4 days.
Yeah, I've done chicken in 3 days.
Got like 4 or 5 steaks because I usually travel with a pack of guys. Right?
Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin.
Yeah, 4 or 5 guys. But it's vacuum sealed, right? And you open it, and it doesn't smell bad or not. If it smelled funky, I would think better of it, right?
I've done lunch meat
yeah,
that many days vacuum sealed, but not like a steak or chicken for sure. Not chicken.
Yeah, no, never.
I froze
I'm
chicken.
not that brave.
I've frozen chicken, 2 chicken breasts, and again, you freeze them good. And I've packed them in Reflectix, 3 or 4 layers of Reflectix. Throw that in the bottom of your barrel, and so you're not pulling it out all the time. And after 3 days, just like you, Dennis, it was cool to the touch. It was like it was in my refrigerator. It thawed out over those 3 days, and on day 3, it was ready to go.
Yeah.
But you live up north. You're hardy. You wake up in the morning and chew bark outside your front door. Just.
No, you know what? Don't get me wrong. We don't do that all the time. Usually, it's typically second day is when we have our steak dinner, because the first day you've traveled, you got into the bush, you paddled for a number of hours, you get there and you're exhausted, and that's where a meal like this comes in handy. Right, your first day, because you're exhausted when you get to camp. Then the next day you're settled in, you paddle, you get to your campsite, you have time, you set up, and that's the night you have your steak dinner. So the second day is usually when we have our steak meal. So
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, what I do, and it's routine. I have steak or something else, pork maybe, chicken maybe not, because I'm a very paranoid person. I do not want to get food poisoning in the middle of nowhere. But I'll do that. The second night, ham steaks with dehydrated stuffing and dehydrated potatoes. I'll do that. And then the third night, I get into other things. But for bacon, a lot of people are asking about bacon. There's a bunch of ways, and eggs. What I do is I go up to my local deli, and they have a dried bacon that they cut for me and seam seal it for me. And yes, it costs a little bit more money, but it's a lot better than that dehydrated stuff you get at Metro.
yeah, the mapley stuff that's like
yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but this is good bacon. And even if you don't have a local deli, I've gone to like the Metro or even Loblaws and went to the deli guy and said, can you do this for me? And they're so excited that they're doing something different that day. Well, why? Well, I'm a canoeist, and I go in the middle of nowhere. And so they'll do that, but pre-seal it. That's really good. And that's going to last 5 or 6, 7 days, that bacon. For eggs, I go to the local farm up the road and I get the eggs from them because they're not washed. If the egg is washed, which they are in all the stores, and the egg board was going to say I'm wrong with this, it makes sense. The mucal stuff around it is not washed. So therefore, oxygen is not going to get in and create bacteria. So if they're washed, yes, you'll put them in the container. I wouldn't take those eggs for more than 3 days. And in a heat wave, I wouldn't even take them. So, but with the other, because I go to Europe, visit those people, they don't even put their eggs in the fridge, right? So you can do that. But after day 4, day 5, yeah, I'm doing the cabbage and my dehydrated Alfredo that I made at home, my pita pizza, my mock shepherd's pie. But I got to say, I eat really well out there. Like, I don't eat grub at all. Like, nothing.
There's no excuse not to eat good out there, right? Just got to put in a bit of effort and a bit of imagination and be your own backcountry chef.
Yeah. I think the main reason we dehydrate stuff is to make it last longer, but that helps you get deeper into the backcountry. So if you're going to go out on a big lake and not for very long, no problem. Just bring a cooler bag like Kevin was showing there, and you can bring fresh food. But if you want to do 4, 5, 6 days or more, some dehydrated or freeze-dried food is almost necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to go through a few questions because I've been starring a lot, and we'll start with the one that Mr. Callan just kind of answered, is how long will the pre-cooked bacon keep in the backcountry if it's vacuum packaged? The thing you didn't touch on there too is smoked bacon will last a lot longer as well because it's smoke cured, right? So that of course you still want to probably keep it cool, but it's no different than pepperettes and stuff like that. It's smoke cured.
Oh yeah, yeah. And cheese, for example, too. A lot of people are going to ask about cheese. A lot of people ask me about cheese. So it all depends how fatty the cheese is. So get the less fatty, that marble cheese, the cheap stuff. That's better than actually getting real cheese. But I'll wrap it in newspaper, and that will last me 20 days. People that say, well, that won't last, just cut the mold off and toss it to the dog and then eat the rest. Like, Cheese
A
lasts
good hard cheese.
Which?
A good hard cheese or wax covered Gouda lasts forever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wax covered Gouda.
Yeah.
There you
If
go.
it's a heat wave,
They've got their pens and pencils out because she'd be taking notes today.
it's a good a time there, Kevin. It's a good a time when your cheese doesn't go sweaty.
It's a Gouda time.
It's a Gouda time. Oh, I get it now. Oh, Dennis, I gotta leave.
It's a Callan joke. Okay, here's a question by Andre's asking, if I dehydrate my meals 1 to 2 months ahead of trips and store them in freezer, can I keep the same fat content in my recipes? So I think that'd be a good one for this guy over here.
Yeah, I just did a video on fat content in foods, and because when I dehydrate my meal, I put a little bit of olive oil in it to help saute the onions or whatever. And strictly speaking, you shouldn't have any fat in your dehydrated food if you want it to last a very long time. But certain oils and I cover this in my video, so go check that out if you're interested. But certain oils will degrade more quickly than others. Saturated fats last a very long time. Polyunsaturated fats don't. So it's a more complex answer. So go check that out. But yeah, I wouldn't say the same fat content. So what I tend to get away with is 2% or lower fat. So I put a little bit of fat. Really doesn't matter what it is, but a little bit of fat will be okay as long as it's not too much. So people around the world dehydrate fish for storage. They sun dry fish all over the world, and a lot of fish has like a good high fat content, but some has lower fat content. Stuff like salmon with an 8% fat content is not going to last very long. If you have a 2% fish, like shrimp is usually about 2%, that will actually last a very long time. So the question was, can I keep the same fat content? Well, I don't know how you cooked. If you put a tablespoon of olive oil in your meal, no problem. You're going to be okay. But if you put a bunch of butter in and and then dehydrated it and then froze it, you could have problems.
Yeah. Now that video you're talking about, I watched that the other day, and like you're getting into all the molecular structures of different oils and different types of oils and stuff. You really
I did it.
That one, didn't you?
I did some research and did a deeper dive than usual, but I get so many questions about fat. I kind of felt that was necessary.
Okay. And Highlander Trekker's asking a question kind of similar there, asking about freezing his dehydrated meals. Is that recommended? Because he doesn't.
Yeah, I get asked all the time, how long do my dehydrated meals last? And easily, if you do a good job of packaging them, that's the key, right? You keep the oxygen out, keep the water out. And that's what I covered in that other video. They will last a very long time. Keep them in a cool, dark place. Temperature, heat, all that stuff affects the bacteria and can create mold. So you don't have to freeze them. And I've kept them easily more than a year. But I would say you're guaranteed a couple months, very likely to get 6 months, probably get more than a year out of them, and maybe more. But I can't tell someone else how long their food's going to last because I didn't package it. I didn't, if you vacuum seal it, put an oxygen absorber in it, keep it in a cool, dark place, it's going to be good. I throw it in the freezer so I don't have to think about it. I'm done. I throw it in the freezer and it's ready when I want it.
What are some meals that typically, or foods that are dehydrated that typically keep longer than foods that may spoil quicker? Like even if it's not the fat content.
Yeah, fat content is key though. Good question. I think grains, vegetables, those all last a really long time. Meat tends to not last quite as long. I really haven't had a lot of stuff spoil, and even though my main stash is in the freezer, when I was creating meals for my book, I was dehydrating all kinds of stuff, and I had no place to put it. And I've still got dehydrated meals in my storage room that I look at once in a while, and it's been a couple of years, and I would eat some of that stuff. Some of that I might not, but it doesn't smell bad, and that's the key thing.
See, I got a couple jars of dehydrated ground beef downstairs they're in a jar, they've been sealed, they have the oxygen absorber in them, they're in a cool, dark place, and it gets to that point where do you trust it or don't you trust it, right? Are there any telltale signs? Like, is the odor of something like that going to be a telltale sign?
Yeah, rancid fat will give off an acidic odor. It'll be maybe a vinegary smell. Um, Rancid food's not going to hurt you. It's going to taste bad, so you could taste a little bit of it, and it tastes bad. Don't like rancidity is what makes potato chips go bad, right? That when you taste a stale chip, that chip is rancid. It's a very strong word, rancid, but that's what a bad potato chip is. So we've all eaten rancid food, had a bite at least, and we've all lived to tell the tale. So you can smell it, you can taste it, you can look at it. The color will be off. The color will change as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Has anybody ever been, that you know of, anybody on panel here been sick from a or a dehydrated meal? No?
Not
No, I got really sick, and in fact, I got my entire crew except one person that didn't eat them was canned oysters on the White River, the red tide, and we're on day 3 of day 8 trip going down the White River to Lake Superior, and they were there was the dean of the college. I just started teaching at the college. I was 2 years into my part-time job there. The dean was my canoe partner, and my 2 coordinators for the program were in the other canoe. I went, hey guys, let's have some oysters and crackers. And every year in my mailbox, every year for 34 years, no, 36, no, 30, whatever, long time, I've got a thing of canned oysters put in my mailbox.
Wow.
Somebody will not let you forget that, eh?
No.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so, you know, I think everybody would like to hear some great recipe ideas. I know I've got a couple of my favorites that I prepared here. Well, not prepared this way, but I got it to put up on screen. And if anybody wants to grab a screen capture of it or something, these are a couple of meals that a lot of my buddies that have been canoeing with me they always ask, are you bringing this meal? Are you bringing this meal? So this is one of them here, which is my chicken and rice quesadilla. So I'll leave this on screen really for a minute here, but basically I'll go through the ingredients and tell you kind of what I do. Now this is all dehydrated foods. For the dried shredded chicken, what I use, or what I tend to use, is I go to Costco and they have canned white chicken breast meat that's already shredded in a can. And it's not like the stuff that you get at a regular grocery store that's soaked in oil or you know, it's packaged in an oil. But this here is really good stuff. It's shredded just nice, that it dehydrates really nice. But more importantly, it rehydrates really nice because of the way it's shredded. So that's just one of my tips. I dehydrate my own onions, which really stink up the house. So I tend to do that in the garage now. Dried peppers, instant rice. I just use the Uncle Ben's or the Minute Rice for this particular recipe. Fajita seasoning, you go down to seasoning aisle, you always see the little packets of seasoning, you know, whether it's chili mix or gravy mix or something along that lines. Well, I use the fajita seasoning for this particular one, and I don't quite use a whole packet for a single serving, which this recipe here shows, but I will season it to taste. And as Kevin Wright always talks about there, to add olive oil to bring up the fat content of it there, I usually add half a tablespoon, maybe a bit more. It all depends. I don't really measure it. I just sort of pour some into the mix. I dehydrate my salsa here at home as well, and that reconstitutes really, really easy. All you need is a bit of cold water to bring that back to life. You can see it there in the picture. On the side, I just use a couple of large pita breads or soft taco shells. I always bring shredded cheese with me on my trips. That goes really nice in there. Everybody loves cheese, right? Hot sauce is optional for some of you, maybe. Not for this guy. I always bring my hot sauce as well. And if I plan on doing this first or second day, I have no problem bringing an Nalgene container, a small Nalgene container with sour cream in it. And it really, as you can see, really tops it off nice. And all the instructions are there to bring it back to life. And you know what? It's a really tasty meal. Very filling. Two of those bad boys. If you could put 2 of them down, you're doing really good, right? And that recipe was basically based for one person. I think I even had the weight on there of 160 to 170 grams because I weigh everything out. But if you're making that meal for 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, like, if you're in charge of doing meal for that, if I'm doing for 4 guys, I'll make it for 5, right? And whatever is left over, well, Molly's happy, right? The dog's happy. So one thing that you want to do is you want it so everybody's saying, no, man, I can't eat anymore. So you get your calories. Yeah.
Nice.
Kevin, you had a big smile. Who has a recipe they want to share? Kevin, right?
I could.
Okay.
I've been working on it here. Share screen, window,
and I will pop it up as soon as it comes up here. And there we go.
Yeah. So this is from my book, Spanish Chicken, and that's how things are laid out in my book. Ingredients, a couple chicken breasts, and I usually sprinkle chili powder on them, and then pressure cook my chicken, and then it gets really, really cooked. The fibers come apart, and it works really, really well, both dehydrating and rehydrating. So I'll add the flavor in with the pressure cooker. Some long grain rice, a couple cups of chicken broth, a little bit of olive oil, as I like to add. Diced onion, a little bit of white flour, 1 cup of salsa, 1 cup frozen or canned whole kernel corn, 1 cup of canned and rinsed black beans, and I will pressure cook the chicken, cook the rice separately, usually, or you can, well, I'll cook the rice separately, and then the rest of that I will throw into a pot and cook the flour a little bit I'll throw the onion in first. In the oil, cook the flour a little bit, and add the chicken broth, and then add everything else. It doesn't have to all come up to temperature, and then I dehydrate all that stuff. And then in the backcountry, I've got the at-home part, and then in the backcountry, I just cover it with water, bring it to a boil, put it in a pot cozy, and let it sit for 20 minutes. And then at the end, I'll add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And usually some hot sauce on top as well. I'm a hot sauce guy like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hot sauce will make anything taste good, right? Almost
yeah.
anything. Almost anything. That's awesome. So you know what I'll do for everybody too? When I go through this video at the end, I will time mark all these recipes so that it'll make it easier for people to go back and maybe find them on their screen. Look, we got another one here, butter chicken. That's getting to be a popular dish these days.
That happens to be across. Yeah. That's really popular. I think, Christina, you're the brand you have there, OTG, I think it's called.
Yes.
I think they have a butter chicken as well.
They do.
Yeah, it's
really good.
And this is super popular with my British viewers. They're always making butter chicken, and yeah, it's really good. So yeah, people can screen grab that. I don't have to talk about every recipe. People can screen grab that. I've got videos about these things too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Anybody else want to throw up put up a recipe right now? Don't throw it up. Put it up. Kevin?
Yeah, I what I prepared for you when you do the screen share is I did a list of recipes for the first night, then the last night, and then I did my wow, isn't that incredible? I can't believe you can make that out there to impress everybody, friends and family, or when I guided. And also recipes to cook fresh fish. But we can probably get into later because I got way too many recipes. I got a bunch of books, but I got this book here. Oh, I've got a book. I've got a book. Oh.
When you said you had a new Trailside cookbook, I thought you'd come up with a new book, but new is in the title.
No,
I haven't got that one.
No, publishers just do that. Well, let's talk about the top 70 canoe routes. Well, that was top 50 at one point. We don't go there. All right, ready.
Okay, Kevin, I'm gonna try and post this. You sent me an email with a lot of great recipes. I'm gonna see if we can get up.
Yeah, so all those recipes. Yeah, so all those recipes I sent you, you can actually just cut and paste on the YouTube after that, because that's what I'm going to show.
Oh, okay. You're going to show something?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch. What am I going to be busy today?
Have at her, man.
All right. So I got, all right, let's start off with the first night. All right. So this is I wrote this for Explorer, but it's in the book of mine. So parsnip and pancetta pasta. Really fancy. Look at that. Very beautiful. Okay. Thai coconut chicken. I love that one. That's really good. A little heavy. That's why I things that you have to bring that stuff in. So I'll do it the first night. Probably not in a Algonquin Park where you can't bring cans. Lobster pasta. Yeah. This is a very, very serious contest. Whoever wins gets a shot of everybody else's scotch.
Kevin, do you catch your own lobster out there?
Oh yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Didn't you say the contest was the last night?
No, was that the last night or the first night? What do you mean? I got it. Oh, did I do this wrong? How much
did you have left on like night 5?
No, those are first night recipes. Those aren't last night. So let me go to now. I'm going to go to last night recipes that had won contests for me. First night, best last night. All right, here we go. Okay, shrimp. I can't pronounce that.
Shrimp Creole.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. So again, these are things that some take cans, but you can dehydrate all this. You can get that 1 can of shrimp and dehydrate in your dehydrator, or if you don't own a dehydrator, do it in your oven at low temperature on what's that paper you put down?
Oh, parchment.
Yeah, parchment paper. And put it down in your oven, low temperature, 110 degrees overnight. Gas. If you have a gas stove, just put a toothpick to open the front door bit to aerate it. If you're doing beans, remember, if you're doing beans on any recipe, put the beans in a Ziploc bag in a closed container in the morning and let them soak all day. So when you go to cook the beans, it doesn't take as long as if you didn't, because you'll never get to bed, right?
Right.
So that's that's one meal that I've won with. Oh, Mexican style couscous. I love couscous. A handful of couscous can feed 5 people, right? It's very high in energy. Quinoa is even better. You actually get a high off eating quinoa, not like a marijuana high, but a buzz. It has so much protein compared to actually rice, right? So I love that Mexican style couscous. Mock shepherd's pie is probably my go-to. I've done it with dehydrated hamburger, which what I do is I fry the hamburger up. I put it in a spaghetti strainer, put hot water over it on the tap to get rid of the fat, and then I dehydrate it after that. But I generally don't eat a lot of meat after day 5 or 6, because if I'm on a 20-day trip, I do not want to get sick out there. So I'll do it tastes like a cardboard box. Not tofu. Not tofu. Because you have to make tofu will go bad on you too.
Oh, you're talking about what's soy? Like a soy?
Soy, but there's another one too. It's not it's not couscous. It's not. Oh, well, I know what I'll probably see right here on my recipe.
Breadcrumbs. No.
no. There's some salt you can put in there.
Bulgur? What's bulgur?
Yes, bulgur. Thank you. Who said that?
It's on your recipe right there.
Oh, there you go. There. It's a good thing I wrote this book, All right. So really good one, especially if you have kids. Bannock pizza. So it's just you can make pizza for sure on flatbread, and then bring dehydrated spaghetti sauce or salsa sauce, whatever. But make bannock, and I'll get into bannock later on. But bannock, you really need to know how to make after day 5. You cannot bring any fresh bread. Bagels go solid on you. You have to start eating bannock, but not just bannock. Cinnamon bannock, Cajun bannock. You'll get sick and tired of bannock, but bannock is not a risen bread. It's a flat bread. You don't want it to rise. But what you do is you make the bannock, and what I would do on a long trip is I make bannock in the morning, so I have it for lunch, and if I have some left over, I'll make this meal. And I generally make it on a reflector oven if I bring one, or you can make your own with a frying pan leaned against the fire. But yeah, this is I have this all the time, and I've never had any kid or client really get upset with me with this. But you need to bring some fresh stuff. You need to bring a fresh red onion. No, I don't dehydrate onions. I would never do that in my house. I did it once. I'll never do it again. You can go to the bulk food store to get that, or you can just bring one onion. It's not going to cost, weigh you a lot. Just put it in your buddy's pack. But yeah, yeah, you never know.
Andy.
Yeah, I know. So you get dry salami, you get your red onion, you get your dehydrated pepper, and dehydrated tomato paste or tomato sauce, or even salsa sauce to really smash it up. Your cheese that you grind, and your little bit of olive oil, and you make the bannock. And I'll give you the recipe for bannock, or I'll give it to Dennis to share. It's really important to know how to make bannock. And yeah, that's a really good meal. I'll do one more thing. I'll show you if you're going to do some really elaborate meals. These have got me smiles out there, because on day 10, if you start making meals like this, people were like, "What the really?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Is trying to make meals after a long period of time that are really going to make people go, "Wow!" Right?
Yeah. Oh shoot, I showed the wrong one. Sorry. But I'll share that as well. But I got to say, this with my students here, they're right there, and they actually have to go in cooking groups and make their meals out of just ingredients of lentils, rice, pasta, beans. TVP is the other one we use. Soy grits, bulgur, toasted buckwheat, or whatever. All those things, and they have to create their own meals. And I think that's so creative and so much fun to do. And even if it tastes like crap, it's so much fun to make fun of the other person. Like, this is terrible. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. I gotta try the quinoa stuff. I've never tried quinoa.
It's good. You literally get a buzz off it. Yeah, you really do. Yeah.
There we go.
I got one more thing if I can find it. Sorry.
Hey, I think, Christina, you got a couple to share while Kevin's looking for that?
My screen's not sharing properly, so I'm not really sure how.
Well, let's try it out. Let's just try it out. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Do it.
There we go. I see your breakfast quesadilla.
Yeah. And these are just like, I do the cooks videos. So just the last slide of the video is kind of a picture of the food and it's a breakdown, but I don't really do recipes. Like, you guys have all these measurements and stuff, and I don't do any of that. I just kind of bring stuff and throw it together. So I could go through some ideas.
Sure.
If you want to do that.
Well, I will point out that it's this guy right below me here is the reason why I started packing meals according to weight. And you know what? Your weights are pretty bang on. I think you might even go a little lighter than I do, Kevin. But I tend to pack bigger meals because I want to eat until I can't eat anymore, and then like I said, the dog gets the rest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a stir fry. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but basically I brought rice on a trip, and I brought some beef jerky. It was flavored. It was Dick Duff's jerky, and I think it was the red wine and basil or something like that, and I rehydrated it. And then I put it in a rice stir fry with some dehydrated peppers and some other things like that. Let's see what else I have here. I've got like a mix of things. So, this is the drunken trip that I made with for Kevin on our trip. It's got scotch in it. I don't have a recipe for it. I just kind of Googled it. I use a recipe from Sean for my bannock, which is on the Paddling Adventures radio website. You can find it there, and I just kind of throw in whatever. But
spaghetti and bannock.
One of my favorite things to make, it's so simple, is one pot spaghetti. I bring dehydrated sauce. I bring just a handful of spaghetti, mushrooms, dehydrated mushrooms, peppers, tomatoes, cheese, and then I just throw it all in the pot with some water, with the spaghetti and the sauce, and I just let everything rehydrate and simmer until it's all cooked and it reduces to this nice, thick, delicious sauce. And then I like to make a nice cheese bannock to go with that. Nice. Really simple stuff. I try to do this, simple things, but that taste good and that are good. So, yeah.
Okay. And now you have your video series. You said you had about 50 titles, right?
There's about 50 videos on the Camper Christina Cooks playlist. So it's just stuff I make when I'm out on trip. This one I just posted this video last week, actually. It's breakfast quesadillas. I made them for a winter trip. And basically you make scrambled eggs. You can put in bacon, whatever you want in there. Bake it in the oven, and then I just freeze it like that and then bring it and reheat it under the wood stove or on top of the wood stove. But it would be good to make, I think, like on the campfire as well, like in the summer. I haven't tried it yet, but yeah, I have some winter stuff too. So a bunch of different things. Fettuccine Alfredo. I love my sidekicks. I make all kinds of things with sidekicks. I add things. I never eat a sidekick by itself. I find them gross, but if you add some fresh basil, some crumbled bacon, always cheese, all kinds of stuff I put in there. Peppers, tomatoes, depends on what I'm making. But sidekicks, you can just make so many meals, and they're so cheap and they're so simple, and they don't take up much room.
I do that with the sidekicks, the bacon carbonara. Right? If you ever had that one there, I'll bring like I'll just go to the grocery store and I'll buy the thing of crumbled, the crumbled bacon bits, and a whole bag of that in there.
Yeah, bring some nice cherry tomatoes, cut them open so you have a little bit of freshness in there. Some bacon. I always add cheese to the sauce if I can. Dehydrated sour cream, something to make it a little bit tastier.
Sure, and there's so many. If you take a walk through the grocery store, and now the United States is lucky because they have way more choice when it comes to different things. Like you go there, you can get 10 different flavors of Spam.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the tuna and the chicken.
But they have so much more variety. So if you ever go to the U.S., there you go, tuna's creations. They got like 50 different types of that there.
Yeah, we have some at our Walmart now in Canada. We have a couple of different kinds, but the States has they have an entire aisle full of them, but they're still great. And what I do is I get like packets of mayo.
Yep.
And then I add them, or ranch dressing. You can get packages of ranch, like where you get your salads. You get the little packages and add that with the wrap, and good to go. Like
I got a bag full
those pickle slices. Pardon?
Yeah. I got a bag full of like those
mayonnaise,
the condiments, but the mayonnaise and stuff downstairs because they come in so handy.
Yeah, these are okay, but you add a package of mayonnaise and it's just like, it's so much better. Like it really makes a huge difference. I think.
Kevin just posted something here. There we go. Talk about it.
Nice. I'll make it bigger. You were talking about grocery store stuff, so there's nothing wrong with going to the grocery store for this kind of stuff if it helps you get to the backcountry. And so you mentioned, I think there's sidekicks in here, but Mr. Noodle, the packaged tuna, the ready crisp bacon, Bisquick, rice-a-roni. Our grocery, like you say, our grocery stores don't have as much as they have in the States, but this is all stuff that'll help you get to the backcountry if that's how you want to do it.
And it can help you with the bank too, right? This stuff is typically not that expensive. Maybe your ready crisp might be a little more expensive and stuff like that.
Just pre-cook it yourself. You don't need to buy the pre. I cook my bacon all before a trip, always, winter, summer, spring, and fall. Wrap it in a little bit of a paper towel and put in a Ziploc. It'll last 4 or 5 days sometimes.
That's what my wife does. She'll pre-cook it all because it's so messy to cook out
so
there.
Messy
like if we
to
go
make
camper camping. Yeah, if we go camper camping or we're going family camp in front country, she'll always pre-cook that, and then in the morning it's just like pull out a few slices with the eggs and stuff, and you're good to go, right? There's no sitting there cooking, waiting, making a big mess. It's all ready for you. Yeah, that's awesome. I see a few things on there I got to take advantage of. I never thought about hamburger helper.
Hamburger helper. Just dehydrate some hamburger. Like I get that not everybody dehydrates a whole lot of meals, and sometimes you get on ready for a trip and you don't have what you need. So grab some hamburger helper, dehydrate a bunch of hamburger, and away you go. Whatever works.
Yep. I got another one here I'd like to share because I did prepare it, so I might as well share it, right? This is my backcountry lasagna that I typically do. There again, single serving size. I use bow tie noodles. I pre-cooked at home and then dehydrated, and we'll let Kevin explain the benefits of dehydrating cooked pasta over cooking pasta out there in the field. But my ground beef, tomato sauce, diced tomatoes for a little more texture, peppers and onion. I just typically you can go to the grocery store and buy that pepper onion mix and dehydrate that, and then that takes care of that. Cottage cheese, we'll let Kevin also explain about cottage cheese and the dehydrating different cheeses. Garlic powder, oregano, and then on the side, I always like to carry my Parmesan cheese and there again some shredded mozzarella cheese. I just rehydrate everything in the pot. Simmer it for a while and then let it stand for a little while to get everything all tender, especially the ground beef, so it's not gravelly. And they call dehydrated ground beef is often referred to as gravel because, well, it has that consistency if it's not rehydrated proper. And then when it's just sitting there and rehydrating at the end of your cook cycle, smother it with cheese, man. Lay all kinds of mozzarella on it, and you'd think it was a nice lasagna made at home. The noodles don't matter really. The pasta's pasta, right? But these bow tie noodles seem to go really well. They, nice coating of sauce on both sides of them, and it becomes a very tasty meal. And another thing you could do with this, and somebody mentioned earlier, a reflector oven, is you could actually finish this off in a reflector oven by baking it for a bit too, to sort of brown up some of that cheese that is on there. So that's always another idea as well. And why can't I find my screen for my share? So I'm just gonna have to. I can't find my. Here, if I cancel. Okay, I'm just gonna do this then. How's this? I can't get this off my screen.
It works better than mine.
Hold on a second. Just bear with me, everybody. For some reason, it's not. Is it this one? Oh, this is that one. This is weird. I can't get this off of my screen. So everybody just keep drooling over my food then, maybe. Out of this. What is going on? I can't. It's not showing me my window for this.
I'll share something and maybe you get a choice.
No, it's not letting me do nothing. Oh, wait a second here. Maybe we'll try this. Sorry about this. Remove.
You're just trying to make me feel better. Thank you.
No, you know what? This is giving me an electrical gremlin here. I can't understand why I can't get this off my screen.
It's pretty fancy looking, Dennis. So you have a cookbook in your future?
You know what? I'm trying to get away from being the camp cook all the time because it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work.
How did you even make this slide? Is it in what did you use for this?
What's going on here? I don't add to the stream. I just basically it's just Photoshop. I put the whole slide together, but I am really stuck here. I'm going to leave the studio and see if this will make. No, I don't want to leave the studio. Okay, somebody else talk about something else cooking here, and I'm going to try and get rid of this.
Well, Dennis,
Kevin.
I can talk about some of the things you mentioned there. You've made me a convert to bow tie pasta. It's a lot easier. My book has the regular noodles, but and I cut them up small. But bow tie pasta makes a lot of sense. And then you talked about cottage cheese, and so that's back to the fat question. And I have really good success dehydrating 2% fat cottage cheese. That it dries really well, lasts a long time. I guess I'll say back on the fat thing. If your goal is to prep food for, if you're a prepper and you want your food to last, don't put any fat in it at all. But if you're going to go on a trip in a couple months and the trip is 2 or 3 weeks long, then you're not going to have any problems.
Yay!
With 2% fat. There we go.
I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. But we got you back. Yeah, you know what? I really like the bow tie pasta for that there. One thing, and has anybody else ever noticed this? And maybe somebody's got a little tip or a trick that they might want to share. But anytime I go to vacuum seal pasta, it pokes a hole. It pokes a hole through the bag. Yeah. And lets the air in, and then you got to try and do it again. I've tried parchment, like putting it in parchment paper first, like an envelope inside. It still manages to pop through. Anybody got any trips? Or Mylar
bags work a little bit better. it's tough. When I first started getting into this, I bought a vacuum sealer, and the bags that came with it were awesome. I think they were 8 mil thickness, and now it's really hard to find thicker bags. They're all 6 mil. I remember breaking one bag in 20 in the old days, and now with the new rolls, I break 19 bags out of 20. Like it's terrible. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to line them, double line them with parchment or something else, or Mylar bags. These are Mylar bags. They're a little tougher than plastic. I'm going to order some Nesco sells what they call heavy duty plastic bags. I'm going to order some and test them out and see how they hold up to pasta and rice and hamburger and all that stuff that creates holes.
Yeah, because you know what, that's where the lack of trust in your meals that you have packaged comes into play. If you go down there to get it and you find that you did vacuum seal it, but when you go to get it, the thing is all loosey goosey, right? And all the air is inside of it, and it's like, what the heck happened? You know what I mean?
And vacuum sealing also gives you a lot more space. It's not completely intuitive, because when you vacuum seal something, you get a shape and they don't stack together as well. When you add vacuum seal bags in a package, they're going to have voids. And you might think that bean bags would stack better, right? But they don't. I once had a basket full of meals in Ziploc bags, and I vacuum sealed them, and I was down to about 3/4 of that basket in my freezer. So vacuum sealing will save you space in your food barrel.
It does. Now you talk of the Mylar bags. Do they have like that texture like the plastic bags have to allow the air to all be drawn out, or are they just flat? Do you need a special?
They work the same in a vacuum sealer as plastic.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pull one out of the package here.
Christina?
I don't have a fancy vacuum sealer. This is just a trick. I don't know if people do this, but this is what I do. I take my Ziploc bag, and you take a straw and you close the bag up to the straw, and then you just suck all the air out, and then close it really tightly. I don't know if other people do that, but that's how I've been vacuum sealing.
Yeah, I think every one of us has probably done that. Yeah. No, that's cool. Okay. So, Kevin, I wanted to, Mr. Rudd, I wanted to ask you about the dehydrating cheese, or like I mentioned earlier, the cottage cheese that I use in my lasagna, because ricotta. Is there a ricotta cheese you could dehydrate?
Ricotta, I haven't been able to find a ricotta that's 2% or less, but cottage cheese for sure. So I just use cottage cheese. Cottage cheese and yogurt, 2% yogurt also dehydrates pretty well.
And would you actually rehydrate that, like, and eat it like yogurt?
Absolutely. Yeah,
really?
Absolutely. I haven't had good luck with 0% or 1%. I think they put something else in it to stabilize it, and it doesn't reconstitute very well. But 2% is pretty good. And I'll mix water with it, maybe a little bit of warm water, and it comes back. It comes back about half the volume. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but it's not. You don't quite get a full carton of yogurt back. And I'll throw that on granola. That makes a great breakfast. Throw some dehydrated fruit on there, and yeah.
That's a great idea, which will lead me into my next thing. What are some great breakfast ideas that are not oatmeal? Christina.
Oh, wow. I do all the things for breakfast. I do French toast, bacon, sausages. Something new I've been doing. When you make scrambled eggs, or when you make eggs in a pan, a lot of the times they make a mess, especially if you're doing scrambled eggs. The pots and pans are kind of non-stick, but they're still stick. And so what I've been doing is putting a little bit of butter or a little bit of oil in the pan, and then I make like an omelet, or like fill the whole pan. Like my pan is like, let's say this one, and I'll fill it. Like if I'm out with somebody, let's say, I'll fill it, and I'll just make like an egg pancake, and then cut it in half, and then put it in a wrap. So you don't have to use a plate, and you can just kind of eat it with your hands, and it makes it really easy. And then throw stuff in there. I dehydrated ham last year, and I rehydrated it on a couple of trips, and that worked really well for me.
Wow, never thought of that either.
Cooking.
Actually, you know what? I have thought of it because I've read it in here.
I wanted to mention cooking. I know it's canoe season and summer's coming and all that stuff, but when I cook on the wood stove, I use a cookie sheet to do a lot of things. And a couple people have mentioned to me that they caught that tip from one of my videos and like they really love it. So I wanted to share that today just because it's something. I have a picture somewhere, but of course I can't find it. But yeah, I just throw a cookie sheet on top of the wood stove. You can put your toast on there, your bacon, your sausages, everything. Just throw it all on the same cookie sheet and heat everything up or cook it that way. Yeah, that's about it for me for breakfast. I don't need to eat a ton of breakfast. I usually do oatmeal on a lot of my portaging trips, but I do dehydrate like apples and strawberries and stuff to put in it. I put fresh fruit in it. So again, mixing and matching the packaged stuff with fresh things.
Sure. I'm one of the rare few that actually like or enjoy oatmeal, but not something I want to eat every single day on a trip, right?
It's not good for me because I have colitis. But another thing I wanted to mention was the bacon. I pre-cook it, and the eggs. I get scolded for this all the time. People tell me I'm going to get botulism. Is it? I bring regular eggs all the time into the backcountry. I've never gotten sick from them. I've even put them in cracked them open and put them in like a bottle of some sort, and I've never gotten sick from it. So, yeah, people have said, don't do that and you're going to get sick. But I've never had a problem. So,
okay. So
not telling anyone else to do it, but like Kevin said, right? Each his own.
Disclaimer, yeah. Yeah. Untamed Ontario's asking, what is, if any, the best non-cooked breakfast? I have an idea, something that I've started doing, but we'll see what Kevin, Mr. Callan, what do you have?
I do a lot of bannock, but I'll make it the night before, and then I'll wake up. And if I do a solo trip, I want to be on the water real quick. So I'll do peanut butter and jam and bannock I made before, and then I'll wolf that down. Rice pudding. You ever had that? Really good. So, but I'll make that the night before too. I'll soak the rice, or actually soak grits too. Have you ever had grits?
Yeah, that goes right up there with the gravel, right?
Well, it kind of depends. You be you, Dennis. But grits usually you have the deep south with gravy, right, instead of potatoes. But to make it for breakfast, it's really good. But you can pre-cook or pre-soak it and then put jam in it, mix it up with some honey. Honey is really good. I'll have that, wolf it that down. I do not like oatmeal. I'll have oatmeal. I actually really like red cereal oatmeal, just because it's different. I can't stand another packets of those. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. The smell of them, like.
Yeah, those, I don't even like the packages. I don't take packages. That stuff, they found a way to ruin oatmeal, is what they did.
Well, it was a great time when they actually had a little information about animals on it, because you could read something in the morning during your constitution.
That's
right. Yeah.
Well, that's a flashback.
Christina?
I have a good non-cook Nutella wraps or peanut butter wraps, but I found that you have to bring it and put it on like before you eat it or shortly before you eat it, because I've made them in advance, and then you go to eat it and the wrap gets really hard for some reason. I think maybe the oil from the Nutella. I don't know what it does. Kevin might know. He sounds like a scientist. So other Kevin.
Well, one of the
Kevins.
One of my go-to non-cook breakfast meals would be I grab Harvest Crunch. Harvest Crunch is like, just a cereal, and it's like a granola of sorts, right? And that there, and just dried milk, powdered milk, right? And mix that up like in an Nalgene bottle and pour it over top. It's like eating cereal, right? Or you could even warm it up. It's really nice. Or you could even use the Harvest Crunch to make like an apple crisp if you have dehydrated apples, or a peach cobbler if you have dried peaches or something. Yep. So there's a few different ideas. Kevin, you got some pictures here to show. Let's
I threw these up. These are some of the breakfasts in my book.
Wow.
The top left is Jim Baird's peach crepes. He's got a recipe on the internet, and I asked if he would provide a guest recipe, and I made a dehydrated version of that. So those are peaches that have been dehydrated and rehydrated. The pancakes beside them have a blackberry topping on them, so dehydrated and rehydrated. Perhaps I don't know if no cook means no boiling water, but the one on the top right is couscous with dried fruit. So just mix that up ahead of time and pour some boiling water on it, and you're good. The bottom left is a yogurt and coconut milk fruit bowl. So there's dehydrated mandarins in there, which are amazing. If you've never tried a dehydrated mandarin, you should throw some mandarin slices in the dehydrator, poke them with a fork every once in a while so they dehydrate. The dehydrator intensifies the flavor of a mandarin. They look terrible. They look absolutely horrid after they've been dehydrated, but the flavor is amazing. And I've sprinkled dehydrated pomegranate seeds on there, which add a nice crunch. Those are great. That's a little fancy to go and get all those things and do that, but this is a cookbook. So, and then the middle one is oatmeal. Middle bottom, apple and cinnamon oatmeal. I use Quick Oats. Go buy Quick Oats from the store, and it's different. And then you can add your own powdered milk or sugar or fruit, whatever you want. I think I got about a dozen oatmeal recipes in my book. But whatever you like, right? Just throw it in and away you go. And then the other one on the bottom is a frittata that I made in an oven, a reflector oven. Again, not the thing you do every day on a trip, but if you're having a slow day and you're, every trip has a different style, and you might be like Kevin. Kevin, when he goes out with his buddies, they have competition cooking. Well, if I was competition cooking my breakfast, I would make a frittata.
There you go. Yeah. And what are you using for eggs in that there? Like, have you anybody ever used powdered eggs? Or like not the powder, but the freeze dried Ova Easy?
Yeah. These are awesome. There's a couple different brands.
This is one that as well, right?
Yeah. So these are great. Very, very stable. They last a long time. Never had a problem. And they're not like the old powdered eggs. Like when we were growing up, they had powdered eggs that the military used. They sucked. That's what I use. Taste like eggs. Yeah.
My first trip, I was trying to find dehydrated or powdered eggs, and it was in these books, right? I'm reading these books on how to backcountry camp, and I'm like, oh, powdered eggs, I got to get those. Couldn't find them anywhere. I mean, it wasn't a thing. Yeah. And I got some from the military, and it was I think for astronauts. They sent me a big huge bag. I still have some somewhere in my basement. I used them for ages, but you have to put salsa, or they were not good. I still don't find any type of freeze-dried eggs are very not that great. I haven't had any luck with any. I don't know if you guys have.
These ones are awesome.
Those ones? What are they?
This is Ova Easy, and I've tried a few other brands. I find they taste just like real eggs.
Okay.
You don't get a yolk.
Kevin, I've always had a hard time finding the Ova Easies, so I found Happy Yak. Happy Yak makes I should have brought some up, but I've got packages downstairs. They put 6.5 eggs in a package, right? So they're powdered. Okay. You just add water, zip it up, and then just shake it up, and then let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes just to get all the lumps out and stuff like that. And what I typically use that for, well, you could use it to add as an ingredient into certain mixes or certain meals. You can do your scrambled eggs with that. Or what I like to do for a breakfast is, many of you may have seen what's the name of the company? They make these little cartons of freeze-dried or dehydrated hash brown potatoes. And you just pour water in there, close the container back up, let it sit for 10 minutes, and you dump it into your pan, and you got like all these hash browns. Then you add your eggs to that there. So you make like this big breakfast skillet. It doesn't look pretty, but I'll tell you, it's hearty. It's very, very filling. You could add bacon bits or sausage bits or actual bacon if you have it. You can also add vegetables to it, like along the lines of what Kevin's talking about for frittatas and stuff like that. So it's a really cool thing. Look up the Happy Yak freeze-dried eggs. They're really good.
Yeah. Pure Choice also is a Canadian brand that makes freeze-dried stuff. So
Yeah.
I think they have eggs as well. That's usually where I get my cheese from. But yeah, during the pandemic, a lot of the suppliers were sporadic. Unfortunately, they were probably having issues sourcing their materials, and it was hard to find some things. But I'm starting to see those things come back to the marketplace, which is good, and they're more reliable in the marketplace.
Yeah. You know what? I have a poll going in the chat over there. I don't know if everybody's had a chance yet to pipe in on the poll, but the poll says, what type of meals do you typically eat in the backcountry? And you have a choice of freeze-dried, dehydrated, fresh, and all of the above. Well, of course, all of the above is the most popular by 1% over dehydrated. So it typically seems a lot more people are dehydrating food, maybe because of it's what we have, right? We all have the ability to dehydrate food, so it makes it more easy. Freeze-dried meals can typically be a little more expensive sometimes, unless you're getting OTG meals, which are like $12 a piece. Randy does a great job of that.
And I only use half for a meal.
For a sponsor of the show, and for a good reason. I only promote those that I really, really like, and this stuff is really good. But his meals are so cost effective. He can't keep them on the shelf.
I split mine in half. I use half of a meal. I find them too much.
Yeah, it's a really good portion. Interesting fact that the Canoe Symposium this year, Randy sold out of his meals by 10 o'clock in the morning. 10:30. He packed up and left because he sold every single meal he had with him. They were gone. Yeah, so that's cool stuff.
Good stuff.
But you know what? So along the freeze dried thing, I mentioned earlier, Kevin, Mr. Wright, about portion sizing. What typically what's a good portion size or the average portion size for a person dehydrated?
The average portion size for the average person is probably 125 grams of dried food.
Okay.
That's been my experience, and I've got a table in my book about all the different ways you can calculate how much calories you need, and you can work yourself backwards. But when I was younger, and so men eat more than women, younger people eat more than older people, and age. What am I missing here? Age. Oh, and activity. Oh, bigger people eat more than smaller people, and of course, you eat more when you're active. So, I've got a table that helps you calculate that. But really, when I was 25 years old and working hard in the backcountry traveling, I realized my meals, a good meal size was 150 grams. That's probably on the high end for most folks. I've had a few folks comment to me that, gee, I actually use 175 grams or close to 200, but those have been like 250-pound linebackers. So that, that's the extreme. My wife, now that we're 50, her meal size is 100 grams. So I think most people are going to fit between 100 and 150. When she was younger, she was 125, and that fills you up, and it's just the right size. I really hate to get to a campsite and see when somebody has dumped food, and I've seen that a few times in my travels, and I just hate to see a mess. And so I think it's kind of either you feed it to your dog or you don't use it all, as Christina does, but don't dump it. And if you can right size your meals, you're less likely to dump your food.
Yeah. Like I say, I pack big when it comes to food because, like I say, nothing worse than still being hungry. But if you're still hungry, brings up our next topic, are some really cool desserts.
Yay.
Yeah, you gotta have some cool desserts. I got one I'd like to share, but I'm gonna go around the panel here to see what everybody has for when it comes to a sweet tooth. Christina.
I stole this from Chris and Julia Prouse. I think I made this on one of the trips we went on, Kevin. It's the mini brownie. I got a picture of it here. I don't know if you can see it. I know. I'm sorry, guys. So it's just one of those little mini, like, what do they call them? 1-bite brownies. And you put peanut butter on them, and then you roast a marshmallow and put it on top. And it is fantastic. I also am a big fan of the dessert wraps. I make a lot of those different kinds. Where do we go here? Dessert wrap ingredients. There we go. So that's you can bring anything. You can put anything on these. I brought dehydrated strawberries, peaches. I've used some of the fruit mix from OTG Meals and rehydrated them. Peanut butter, chocolate chips, marshmallows, pretty much anything that you love. I've done little miniature Snickers bars in there, Aero bars, Reese's peanut butter cups, you name it. Put it in a wrap and put some butter on it. Well, you don't need the butter, but depends if you're using a fire or not. I've made them on the wood stove, and I've also made them on the fire. And you get the outside nice and toasty brown, and then you end up with something like that, which is pretty good. Nice drippy chocolate, and chocolate and peanut butter is my favorite, but I've done all different kinds. That's one of my favorite things to make for dessert when I'm out on trip. Doesn't take up much room. A couple of mini marshmallows, a little bag of chocolate chips, maybe some peanut butter, and a couple of wraps. It's really, really easy.
We put that in pie irons when we go like front country camping. Hey, we'd call it a podge pie, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, peanut butter, marshmallow, chocolate chips, and woohoo, you're off to the races, right?
Yeah.
If you don't burn your tongue out of your face first.
I've done apples and marshmallows too, and cinnamon, and you can there's all kinds of things you can throw in there and just heat it up and melt it all up, and it's yummy goodness.
Awesome. How about you, Kevin? What's one of your favorite backcountry? Kevin Callan, Mr. Callan.
Oh, I switch back and forth. I don't do something fancy every night. I'll even do a chocolate. I'll do a Mars bar to everybody. Here you go. Here a Mars bar, because I made them really good meal, but I'll make them a hot toddy, right? And then when we are at camp earlier, or we have a 2-night on one campsite, I'll do a blueberry pie. I'll do cornbread. I'll do carrot cake, and I'll bring all that. But you don't want to do carrot cake every single night because the amount of stuff you need to take. But I do everything on a reflector oven like this. Okay, this is really old. Anyway, so that's against the fire, and it's really the entertainment for the night. Watch Kevin bake for us while we are having more hot toddies. This is fantastic, and it's relaxation. And muffins, you just go to the general store and get a muffin mix, or make your own. Mm-hmm. And then you make a muffin cake, and then put that icing on with that squeeze tube, and then serve that. But not every night, right? So,
yeah. The reflector oven thing there. I camp a lot with the guys from Kid Products, and as you know, they have their own line of reflector ovens. And they're always working on these really cool recipes. And one of the things that they do, and you just mentioned it, Kevin, is they do like a muffin mix in a cake pan, right? But they also take strawberry jam, and they'll put dollops of strawberry jam all around the thing. So they're like, so when this thing cooks, it engulfs the whole strawberry in there. And then they cut that out. I'll tell you, it is the die for, man. It's so delectable. It's like a cake that, it's that the strawberry jam just adds that extra to it. So there's a tip for you to try. I do something quite similar to what Christina does with wraps. But I go to the dollar store, and the dollar store has these knockoff Mars bars, Snickers bars. I think they're called Meteor bars, the ones that they sell. They're like the knockoff of a Mars bar. So basically, there's 2 in a package. You take that, and you take a tortilla, and you wrap it in the tortilla, and brush it with some butter if you have butter or margarine or whatever it might be, and then sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top of it if you have that as well. And you put that in your pan. You can either fry it, but you have to keep turning it, or you put that in a reflector oven until it goes like nice and crispy golden brown. Let it sit for a couple minutes before you eat it, because it comes out just molten lava, right? But it is, I tried that for the guys, and the guys all just like, are you doing it again? Are you doing it again? So now I got to carry Mars bars or these Meteor bars with me, right? So it's very cheap, but you know what? It's so rich. That little bar that's only like, 3.5, 4 inches long, is you have a hard time eating it, because after a big meal, and the thing is so rich and sweet that it's decadent, right? It's very decadent. So yeah. Kevin's got a nice birthday cake here.
Ooh.
Yeah. 6 candles. My daughter's birthday is on the 4th of July, so we're often camping on her birthday, and this is just a cake mix from the store. It's probably half a cake mix or a third, and I portioned it down and bring some icing, and away you go. Reflector oven. I think I made this one on an Outback oven, which aren't available anymore, but that was a very cool oven that sat on top of your stove. I don't know if I can switch to the other one.
Was that the one that had a little tent that went over top of it?
Yeah.
The oven? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I can share some other ones if you want. Got to figure out how to do it, though.
Not a problem. I see we got Norma Vint in the basement, but I don't see her camera on. I'm not sure. Norma, are you ready to go? Let's see here. Hi, Norma. You there? No, I think she's locked out. Avid supporter of COA. Thank you very much. If you want to try and get in with your camera, I'll see you pop in again there. I did post the link in the chat a few minutes ago there. If anybody wants to come up and share a recipe with us or a food idea or ask a question, by all means, I'm just going to drop the link once again in case somebody does want to pop in really quickly. And I see Kevin Wright has got all kinds of goodies here on screen again. He's got all the pictures, right?
Oh, yeah, and I'll just have them ready for you.
I have a drink
you don't
picture
have to go
just like that. That's so funny.
and at least one of these is one of Kevin's recipes. I can't remember all of these, but Kevin mentioned drinks, and I'm not a big dessert guy. But making a fancy drink around the campfire can be a lot of fun, and it doesn't take up a lot of room in your pack. It usually just takes hot water. I can't remember all of these, but I've thrown a lime wedge in this one, an orange wedge in this one. I think this is a Mexican coffee. This is just a hot chocolate. This is just orange crystals in hot water, which can taste really good, or you can put a bit of spirits in it. One of these is Kevin's whiskey. I think one of these might be with the ginger scraped on top. I've got one or two of Kevin's recipes in my book. So lots of hot drinks are a great thing around the campfire in the evening.
You mentioned the orange, or like the orange crystals with hot water, reminds me of Neo Citron. Oh, Kevin's got a beverage going here too, so that's good.
You can put a little bit of that in it. I think one of those, or maybe two of those, is Kevin's. I can't remember.
Sure,
but yeah.
Well, you know what?
You don't
now with that picture, let's get into some coffee talk. What's your favorite way to do coffee, guys and gals? Christina, you're not a coffee drinker, are you?
No,
well, okay. Then what's your favorite hot beverage?
Bailey's. Hot chocolate and Bailey's.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you do.
And
right?
I have dehydrated fruit too. I've done cucumber with gin. You just put the cucumbers right in there and let them rehydrate inside the gin, and it flavors the gin, and a little bit of water because it can get really strong. I've done oranges and limes and lemons as well. So yeah, and then I use these kind of things.
Yeah, those are great.
And these are great because they came out with these little bottles, and they're plastic, and they fit really nice in the side of a bear vault because they kind of go with the shape.
All right.
So, but yeah, sorry, no coffee.
Okay, Kevin, Callan.
If I'm with Andy, he's really into coffee, so he'll bring one of those compressors and loves his coffee. If it was just me, I would do cowboy coffee. And I don't know if you know what coffee is, but you basically take it off the boil, don't put it back on the boil because the tannic acids are released from coffee. Good flavored oils from coffee are released just 3 degrees below boiling point. So you let it sit, and you just bang it with your knife on the side and let them settle, and you'll get grounds in your teeth. Put Bailey's in, you're fine.
So why it's called cowboy coffee? Because you have the.
The old cowboy coffee came from when they were going on the range and they would make coffee just by throwing grounds into the water. But if you
I want to know where the cowboys got coffee from.
Is it instant coffee, right?
No, it's ground coffee. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It tastes good,
just not filtered.
Yeah. If you go to Paul Curley showed me another way. I swirl it around my head to
the Tennessee twirl
the grounds to the bottom. that doesn't really work, but it looks really cool. What Paul does is he plunges it like this, and it settles the grounds. Not all, or just
nothing
use
wrong with a little fiber in your coffee, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Kevin? Do you have Mr. Ride? Do you have a favorite way of doing coffee in the backcountry?
I like all those methods. I've done the French press. I like that. I like cowboy coffee just fine. If I am going on a longer trip and I want to keep my weight down, I will go, and this is what I do if I'm backpacking, is I'll get the Starbucks instant packs. They are really good. The Italian roast is awesome. It's as good as any other coffee I've had, I think. And they're very small. They don't take up the space. I did a 12-day trip a few years ago with a buddy of mine, and we did cowboy coffee, and we had to bring a big bag of coffee. It takes up a lot of room. Those packets, you can bring, easily three times as much coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I'm a fan of pour over or percolated in the backcountry. If I'm doing single serve, I'll just bring like the little pour over, but I have one of the reusable filters, so it's like a little disc that has a mesh bag on the bottom. Pour coffee in, pour it over, and then you just pop the stuff into the fire once it's all done. So that's probably one of my favorite ways of doing it. But if you have a group of people, you got to bring the coffee percolator. You know what I mean? You got to have that coffee perking in the morning. It's a lot of work and a lot of weight to carry, but as Mr. Callan does, put it in your buddy's backpack, right? So.
Well, yeah, Andy takes that too. And someone made a good comment too.
Your bag.
You can put cold water, drop the cold water into it, and it will settle as well. Yeah, that's a good trip. Yeah, Andy, when Andy goes, I can't carry the weight that Andy does. I can't. So he brings everything. His pack is the weight of my house.
He carries a backpack, and you carry that little basket thing on your back.
I'm not a man. I'm not a real man.
Jay, I see you in the basement there. I'll have you up in 1 second. So I got to tell you all about this. Now, this is from our trip last year. We had a new guy on the trip, and this guy happens to own a freeze dryer. And about our third or fourth day into the trip, he goes, "Hey, everybody, you want a Caesar?" Everybody knows what a Caesar is, right? The vodka, Clamato, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? He freeze-dried Caesar mix, so the Clamato with all the ingredients inside of it, and basically he freeze dried it, and then all he had to do was add water to it, right? So it was a powder.
Wow.
And he brought it back, and then he had vodka, so he poured the vodka on top of it, and then for garnish he had freeze dried pickle spears and freeze dried olives with the garlic, like the ones you get at Costco, the big olives with the garlic in it. You put them in there and they just float, right? Because they're light and airy, but they're packed with flavor. And these Caesars were like remarkable. So we're 4 or 5 days into a trip and we're drinking Caesars up on Indian Lake. So yeah, cool, awesome, totally awesome. We got somebody in the basement here. Let's bring him up. We got Jay from Beauty of the Backcountry. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, I'm good.
Jay.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jay.
Good to see you.
This, I gotta say, just to begin, like this is like I'm gonna record this and put it on a hard drive and just save it because there's so much information happening between like these panelists and in the chat. It's just like a wealth of information and best practices. It's amazing.
Cool. What's your favorite recipe for the backcountry?
Well, it's not my recipe. It's Sherry's recipe, but she's not here right now. But she has messaged me of what it is. It's our favorite go-to breakfast. It is like, it's a quinoa based thing. So you have quinoa and dried fruit. We have a place just down the street from us that does freeze dried fruit, and they're called 40 Below Sault Ste. Marie, and they're just awesome. So whether it's usually strawberries and blueberries, and then quinoa and powdered coconut milk and the coup de grace, the maple syrup, just to top it all off. And then you just boil that for about like 15 minutes. And it's amazing. And with that, we have cafe mocha. So since we stopped bringing booze with us into the backcountry because it was beginning to be heavy and my shoulders were starting to get sore, what we started to do was our morning coffee would be nice with maple syrup and ghee. And I know there was some talk about ghee in the chat earlier, but what we thought we found was like this sort of next level. We'll just throw a little bit of hot chocolate in there and crush up some candy canes. Throw those in there, and you are having a good time. The day has started well.
You ruined it with the candy cane.
You love the candy cane.
I'm not a sugar guy. I know it sounds weird, but it adds a bit of element of peppermint that, like, yeah, it just kicks you in the buns and it gets you on the trail a little bit earlier, maybe.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The only reason why the candy canes killed it for me is I had a bad experience with peppermint schnapps when I was younger, and we'll just leave it at that. So, yeah. No, that's awesome. That quinoa breakfast sounds pretty good. I really got to try this quinoa stuff because I've never had it.
Yeah, it seems almost odd that you haven't had it yet. It's almost like you had to try not to have quinoa.
Weird. Odd. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for such beautiful. Like, thanks, Kevin Squared, for the amazing books, both of which we have obviously here all the time. One there, and then
Right
yeah,
on.
we were always referencing your guys' books. And Christina, we were always watching your videos to get new ideas. And thank you guys so much for it.
Hey, question, Jay. Question.
Yeah.
If the beard goes longer, are you able to keep more food during the day to snack on?
That is a good question. What this beard is for keeping my vocal cords warm through the winter, and in the spring. I cut it after our first canoe trip in the spring when black fly season is absolutely deadly. Most of them get caught in here. So then I snack on them on the trail.
And Jay, have you written a song about eating on the trail or coffee on the trail?
Coffee on the trail? No, I haven't yet.
Not eating on camp food on the trail?
Not to my mind. Are you suggesting something here? Maybe I should.
Just make it up, man.
I will. I'll do it when I'm out there next time I go to camp.
All right.
Jay, I have to say I loved your home video. That was a really good video. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Say hi to Sherry.
Yeah, I will do that. Thanks so much, everybody. Again, thanks to all of you and the beautiful community here. Cheers.
And we won't tell Sherry what you said. What you're wrong.
No, thank you.
All right.
Loose lips sink ships, Kevin.
There we go.
Good to see you, Jay.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. You know what? There's a couple more things before the end of the show that I wouldn't mind covering and just kind of touching on. One is like packing and storing your food when you're in the backcountry, because we do have these critters that Kevin has. This Kevin down here has some great videos on bears, and there's some of your bigger, more watched videos too, aren't they, Kevin? You've had some good success with them ones.
Yeah. I think one is over 2 million views.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'd like to really quickly cover, and we got about 10 minutes, maybe go 10 minutes overtime. We'll see what happens. But is proper disposal and cleanup in the backcountry, because we're eating this stuff out there, and we have to figure out a way to properly dispose of it so that we're not making nuisance bearers. So first off, let's talk about food storage when we're in the backcountry. Mr. Wright, I'll let you touch on this because you do have these well-viewed videos. What have you got for that?
Sure. I tend to hang my food or hide my food depending on where I am. And Kevin, I just read his Explore blog article about food storage in bear country. And but I'll show you guys what I use. This is usually what I put my food in. This is an olive barrel that you can get free at most either a Greek or Italian imported food store, or even grocery stores if you can find a manager who can get you one of these. Often they're out in the back going to the dump, and they're watertight because they had olives in them. And I put these U-bolts on them. I get this hardware from Canadian Tire in the nuts and bolt aisle, and there's a piece of metal in here underneath that there's another couple of bolts, and there's some washers with some rubber on them. All stuff you can find at Canadian Tire. Drill 4 holes, and I've got an easy thing to hang. And one of these will last me, if I fill it with dehydrated food and put some olive oil in there and maybe a bottle of scotch, that'll last me a week. I realize that's a 7-day food container for one person.
That's cool. And I never thought about that hitting a restaurant. I got to talk to my restaurant buddy in the plaza I work at there. So
yeah, and they you can fit 3 or 4 of them in a canoe pack, and I'm sure Kevin will get into the bear vault stuff, and I've got videos and that stuff too if people are interested. But yeah, this is what I usually do. And if there's a good place to hang food, it's easily hung. And I'll bring a pulley sometimes, keep the pulley and the rope in the top of the barrel, and good to go.
Now, I guess we should stress too that these things are not bear proof. They're
not bear proof,
and a way to store your food, right? Christina, you have on your
I've
lap
got the
there your
store
bear vault.
version, their retail version of that, which is the Bear Vaults, BV 550, I think it is, or BV 500. And I've been using this almost since I started solo camping, pretty much, and I've never had an issue with anything getting my food. They don't get hung. I just take it like, 100 meters, couple 100 meters behind my campsite. I usually stick them under like a cedar bush or something like that, and just lock it up. And next day, sometimes I have trouble finding it. I was camping and I was walking to the privy one night, and I saw somebody left this reflective piece of rope, so I tied it onto it, and now I can find it a little bit easier. But basically, if you don't know how these work, I guess I should explain, because some people don't know. I remember I brought it to Cabin Falls, and Hap Wilson was like, how do you open this thing? So it's just like a pill bottle. It's got 2 little bits that stick out, and they click. Somewhere they click. I have to turn it. There. Yeah. So you can hear it. Now it's locked. So basically, to get into it, there's a little nodule here, notch, I don't know what you call it, module, a little bit of something there. And basically, you just have to push it in while you turn it like a pill bottle. Just give it a little bit of pressure. It's very hard to do, like in this position. But in the wintertime, I have a hard time getting it open and closed. And then you just gently push on it and turn it again.
I can see why the bear can't get it.
I got bicep tendonitis a couple of weeks ago, and my shoulder, my arm is like really messed up. So I don't want to push too hard on it, but yeah, just gently push on it and then put it back up. I have fit about 6 to 7 days of food in here if I'm really creative, but it's really nice for 4 or 5 days, and yeah, I love it. I also sometimes use my Ursack.
Yeah.
It has basically like a giant Ziploc bag inside, and I do hang this. And Ursack has a really cool way to hang them. So when you attach it to a tree, if it gets pulled, it actually, the top gets tighter. So that helps. I've never had any issues with either of these devices, but my Bear Vault is my go-to. I love it. I have a little backpack for it. I carry it with the canoe, and I've never had an issue.
I tend to use the Ursack too when I go solo camping for 3, 4, 5 days, because it'll fit in my pack easily.
Yeah, if you single carry, the Ursack is the way to go, but I don't do that. So I figure I'm already carrying the canoe by itself. I might as well throw something in, and the food barrel weighs about 10 pounds. The canoe weighs 30. So my pack usually weighs 40. So it makes 2 even loads.
Yeah. Now you showed that little plastic bag that's inside of there. They're supposedly touted to be odor resistant.
They say that, and I actually put all of my food, like everything I put in my Bear Vault or anything, I always package it in Ziplocs as well and put them in. So I don't know, but again, I've never had an issue with anything getting into my food in the however many years I've been camping. So I must be doing something.
I could tell you a really quick story. For those of you that might be familiar with Dan Mailot, he's got the YouTube channel. What is it? Serenity? Something Serenity. Sorry, brain fart right now. But he was up on French River last year, him and his buddy Louis, and they had a bear in camp, and the bear actually ripped his hammock open. Kevin's saying, yeah, he knows.
That was terrifying. Yeah.
So him and Louis, they packed up and they got away from the place, but they didn't grab all their gear. And one of the things that Dan left behind was his actual Ursack, and it was tied to a tree. Well, he went back to get it the next day, and the Ursack was gone along with the tree. It was just a small tree. The thing actually ripped the tree right out of the ground. He said they looked around, they couldn't find it. Like no drag marks or nothing. It was gone. Right. So one thing about an Ursack, make sure you tie it to a tree that's a little tougher than the one that he tied it to. So yeah, funny story. Well, not funny.
I really felt bad for him when that happened, because he was really shooken by that for many days, and he never wanted to go back into the backcountry after that. He's now fine. He's dealt with it, whatever. But yeah, I really felt bad for him.
Yeah, Seasons of Serenity is his channel. If you go check out his video on that, you'll actually see he actually explains that. So, Kevin, what about you? How are you storing your food when you go to the backcountry?
Yeah, I'll put this in a nutshell, because this is a big debate that's going on forever. Yeah, and so I'll tell you what I do, not what anybody else does, whatever. Just what I feel more comfortable with. If I go into a park that bears are known to be habituated, like Algonquin, Killarney, even some places of Temagami, like Diamond Lake is notorious. So I will hang my food, and I'll hang it proper. Yes, I know Cliff and I have had these debates, and bears climb trees, Kevin. Right? Yes, they do. But if you hang it proper, and the biggest reason why I do that as well is when I'm standing in front of an audience presenting, I'm not going to tell people what I do in the far north. Because if they go to Algonquin and do what I do in the far north, they're going to have a bear problem. What I do in the far north, there's no trees big enough to hang. If you're in Wabakimi, woodland caribou, or whatever, little tiny spruce trees, right? The bears don't even know you're around. They're not habituated. They're like, oh, there's a human. And maybe they think they could eat you, right? Whereas in Algonquin, not all bears, but the majority of bears get habituated throughout the season, right? Especially by August, right? So I'll hang my food, and I will tell people to hang the food, because if they don't in Algonquin, they'll say, well, I'm going to go put my food in a barrel like this, and I'm just going to put it back in the bush like Kevin does in the far north. Well, when it's actually just before dark, and I tell everybody to go 50 meters back in the woods, that means they go 5 meters, because they think if they go 50, they're going to die, right? And so they're going to find the tree right beside the tent, throw the rope over the limb beside the tent and hang it. Or they're going to put the barrel right beside the tent and do what Cliff does and puts pots and pans on top, so he hears the bear so he can come out and shoot it. Right? And that's what Cliff tells you, right? Yeah. So it's a different perspective, and I'm not knocking him at all. We have great debates. It just depends about the region you're in, right? So I changed this year too, because what I will do again, if I'm in an area that's not known for bear problems, I will use a barrel, and yes, a bear will rip that apart. Andy taught me to put a pin in it, so you pull it out, because a raccoon could easily flip that open like that, right? Or a bear, but raccoons are really smart, and they'll get in. If you go to Killarney Provincial Park's gatehouse, as soon as you go in, you'll see a barrel torn apart by a bear, right? So they're not bear proof, but they are scent proof. They're waterproof. I do like carrying all my food in a barrel. I'll hang it or put it in the back bush, depending on where I am. But this year, I got a little nervous about doing some Georgian Bay trips because there's some bad bear problems along Philip Edward Island, because they get used to food on the island, so they'll swim across. Well, let's just check this out. So this is my first time getting this, and I know Christina had one when we were tripping, the one that you had there, and I thought, well, I'm going to try this out. This one's Counter Salt, the same company that makes the bear spray. So there's goods and bads. I haven't physically tried this yet, but I bought it for myself just to make myself feel more comfortable. On Georgian Bay, I found that there's no real good trees to hang, and when there are trees on those islands, that's where the people hang.
Yeah, everybody puts their food there.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm going to change up on that. I don't want to do the barrel thing on an island, right? So I got this, and you're right, this one's really confusing. Once you get a hang of opening up, I remember the moment I opened it up, woo! I figured it out. It was like one of those puzzle things. So I got this. I would say the goods about that is that a bear really can't open this. Well, maybe they can, but studies show that they can't. Some also advantages of this one compared to the clear one you have, because I did look at that one. Well, that one's a little bit more money, but I found this a little more expensive than I thought they were going to be. But what I liked about it, it was yellow, so you can see it in the bush. Right?
Yeah.
Especially, well, maybe not in the fall. The other was the two disadvantages. Well, one is an advantage and disadvantage. It comes with a container to put it in a bag. So if I'm doing the Georgian Bay coastline, I'm not doing any portages because really, I can put this in a, I don't know, I'd rather just do that, right? So, but if I'm doing Georgian Bay with no portages, I put this in the canoe with its bag holster. Pretty cool. But I would not put this in the bush with the holster bag because up there, like you were saying, we'll grab the holster bag. We'll never get in this thing, but we'll drag your food away, and you don't want that to happen. The other is I just find this a little too small for this. Would, I mean, for whiskey alone, this would only last.
It's not big enough for you.
Yeah. But I do know that in national parks and also parks in the United States, by law, you can't go in some of those parks without this or without whatever product you have. But without this case, you don't use that. That's backpacking, right? So I got it. I think it'd be good for a nice weekend or maybe a fortnight a trip along Georgian Bay. And it was worth the money. I splurged.
And you can use it as a seat.
That's true too.
Really?
I'm going to share a really quick picture with you just to show you.
I'm going to try that. Wait a minute. I'm going to experiment. I'll get back.
This is a picture I've seen many, many times. That's like a clothesline with a bear shimming to get birdseed out of a bird feeder. So these guys are pretty smart. They'll figure out a way. If anybody has ever seen the video by Chris and Julia Krause where their food was hung and the bear got all the food out of it and the bear was still hanging and all their food was they had a very bad or very scary bear encounter. So look that one up. That's really interesting too.
Christina, this is very uncomfortable. I've sat in better roundhouses than this.
So it fits in my little backpack just to show you. But when I get to camp, I take it out and then I put it wherever and use it as a table or whatever. The other thing, the clear thing is great because you can see what's wherever. If you're looking for that orange Reese's peanut butter cup and you want to find it, like it's really easy to find it. And then I use this as my camping purse, I call it. So I put all my stuff in and then I just, my water filter or whatever, if I'm going to go out fishing, and then I have all my crap in there. So it kind of doubles up.
Yeah. Here's a pretty neat question by Untamed Ontario. Does the ritual of food play an important part in the backcountry? Most definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sitting around, if you're out there with somebody, a group of people, sitting around having dinner together around a campfire, breakfast, in the morning with the steam or the fog still coming off the water. Yeah, man, it's definitely a huge role. Don't go out there and eat just cup of noodles or Mr. Noodles or something. You know what? There's no excuse not to eat really good out there.
It's all thriving and surviving. I'll tell you a great story today. I had my students out and we did cedar tea and with the Kelly kettles, and they got cedar tea going. I even put a little bit of sugar in for them. Got them all a drink, and this is great for vitamin C. It's better than it's like 5 oranges. It's fantastic. And I poured it all of them a cup, and they're being very polite to me. And I said, "What do you think? Tastes like dirt." Okay. And Hannah, she said, "Why would you drink this?" I went, "I really don't. I bring tea. But you all told me you wanted to know about wild edibles, and I'm doing that today. So we get to a trout lily. Well, can we eat that, Kevin?" I went, "Yes, you can. But if you eat too much, it'll make you vomit." Well, what did we eat? A sandwich you brought for lunch. I would bring that. So it's all to do with, I eat really well out there, and I got that a lot from guiding. And the moment I get to camp, I would make them hors d'oeuvres with salsa salad or salsa and chips and stuff like that. And they'd be away from me while I'm making the main meal because I don't want anybody around me when I'm doing my main meal. And they're enjoying themselves in the tarp. And then while they're all cleaning up, I would make a nice dessert, whatever, and they would enjoy themselves because by day 3 they were like, "Oh, this is not so bad. It's actually pretty good." And then the bugs come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kevin, you mentioned about the cedar tea and stuff like that. I've been on trips where I found chaga, and I've foregone coffee in the morning to have chaga with some cedar in it as well, or what do they call it? What's that tea?
Marijuana. Marijuana.
No marijuana. This guy doesn't.
Labrador tea.
Labrador tea.
Oh, that's Newfoundland hemp. Newfoundland hemp. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, hey, you do you, Kevin.
I think I'd be.
You know what? It's kind of something different. You know, it's it's the ritual of experiencing something that you could actually consume in the backcountry. That's from the backcountry. You didn't have to carry that in, right? So.
Oh no! I love actually. I was looking for it today. I just couldn't find it. Is a fresh spruce. It hasn't done that yet. I'm way too early. I should have put out for that today. But the spruce tips in the spring. Yep. Those make really good tea in the morning. Don't even need honey for that. I'd rather have that than cedar. But they just wanted to do some wild edibles. We did find a few wild leeks, which I love. But that's a desired? No. What's it called? Acquired taste. Because the one guy, he hasn't said a word all classy. He goes, "Oh my God, what is this?" My girlfriend will never,
Or another thing, if you happen to know your mushrooms, and I mean really know them, and there again, the same guy that did the freeze-dried Caesars, he's a mushroom hunter, so he knows his mushrooms. And last year when we did our Bisco Indian Lake Ramsey Lake trip, him and I went out foraging one day after a rainstorm that we had, and we were out there for maybe an hour. We come back with some morels, we come back with some hedgehog mushrooms, and one other one I can't remember the name of, but we ended up some lobster mushroom. Nice. And we come back and we had beautiful mushrooms to go with our meal that day. We put some in our eggs or the breakfast skillet that we did, and it was really neat to have something off the land, but only if you know that stuff, or if you're with somebody that knows their stuff, because the consequences, right?
Yeah, it's like the mayapple. We were looking at mayaples today. I go, look, the mayapple fruit is ripe in August for about 2 days. If you miss that 2 days, you're dead. So why would you even think of even that? People actually make mayapple jelly out of the fruit, right? It's a big thing. It costs you a fortune too, like a bootlegger, right?
Here, try this. It might kill you. Go ahead, try it.
Yeah. It's just crazy. It's I don't know. I don't get that. I mean, I'll teach the students that, but I'll say, okay, marsh marigolds, good, another good one. When it's first coming out now, which is coming out now, it makes a really good salad. But just past that, it will kill a cow that eats it.
Yeah.
Right. So just go to Loblaws and buy a bag of salad, for the love of God.
Yeah. Christina, I'll take one of those.
I was just gonna say, I know that Kevin does something similar. Some people know that I have a thing for Jolly Ranchers. I found the tropical ones, which are amazing now too. Use them as a treat. If you're doing a long portage or something, is it Skittles for you, Kevin?
What's the Skittle? No. What did I have?
You used to, I thought you used to, I thought it was Skittles.
Well, I do like Skittles. I like my Skittles.
Yeah, I throw a couple of these in my pocket, and I'm doing a long portage, or I'm having a rough day.
Lifesavers.
A little hit of sugar, just gives you a little pick me up, and it's like, okay, I did a good job. I get a candy,
no lifesavers.
Pardon?
Yeah, lifesavers. A roll of lifesavers.
What's lifesavers? That's right.
Every 1,000 meters, I pop a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And when I do the Dixon Bonfield, the red lifesaver.
Oh, it's got to be red. There you go. Food can be a reward. Yeah.
We are 10 minutes after 9 almost here. I'd really like to close up with a little backcountry etiquette with our food, about being bear safe with our food in the backcountry. Who wants to take this?
I thought we covered that with the bear.
Kevin and his new earring. This Kevin.
Well, I think the main thing. So we talked about hanging food, and Kevin covered that very well. But I think the main thing is keep a clean campsite. Absolutely. Bears can smell. They can smell about 100 times better than the best dog. So you're not going to fool them by hiding your food or anything. So just keep a clean campsite. Put your food in as many layers of protection as you can. The barrels are airtight mostly, but the bears can still smell that. Those odor-proof bags work to a certain degree, but I live in the country and I tested some out, and the bears noticed them. I put some sardines in one and hung it on a tree, and the bears went to it and explored it. So I could tell they could smell something, but it wasn't enough to make them action it and try and break in. So yeah, keep a clean campsite. Clean your fish away from your campsite. Don't clean it in campsite. Clean it away. Clean up right after you're done eating. You're going to make a plume of scent when you're cooking your food. Wash up, clean up right away, and that's probably number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about your garbage? Obviously, pack it in, pack it out, But all too often, even like a candy bar wrapper left in a fire pit, you're leaving for the day and you go, oh, I don't want to carry this, and you just drop, or a granola bar wrapper or something. That's going to draw animals, right? It's our responsibility, I think, as campers, backcountry campers, to make sure that one, we pack out what we like, any of the trash that we have, or food. Like, food doesn't always burn 100% off when you throw it into a fire pit at night. Make sure you burn it off, make sure there's no residue there and stuff like that. Burnt food has an odor, right?
Yeah. And bears are smart. They're curious. They'll come to a unique scent. Like, it doesn't have to be food. It could be anything else. Toothpaste, cologne, perfume, whatever.
Fire starters.
Yeah, anything with a scent, they will be curious of and investigate.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Callan?
Yeah, no, it's just like another thing for campsite etiquette and food and stuff like that. So when I get to a campsite, I never ever get my water where it's easy to get. So right where the launch is, because I guarantee you someone did something terrible there before you got there. Meaning they did their dishes, and that water is coming in like this all the time. And you want to get sick, get water from there. And also people go to the bathroom. I've seen it when I got it 10,000 times over. They come down the water right where everybody gets their water. Yeah. So as soon as I get to camp, I go down the campsite, the most difficult place to ever get water, or paddle out, and I get my water in a bag. And yes, I'm paranoid, but yeah.
Yeah. How often now, and this is a question for everybody in the chat over there, right along what Kevin is saying. How often have you gone to a campsite and seen pasta or rice right in the shore, right at the spot where you might want to go get your water? You see it sitting there. No, the fish do not eat pasta or rice, right? Or something else that is fish scraps. People will clean their fish and they throw them, and they're all like, you could see them in the water 10, 15 feet offshore.
Yeah.
And what usually walks the shorelines looking for food, right, is a bear or a lynx, right? Or whatever else it might be out there.
The snapping turtle. Who's ever had a snapping turtle? Oh, that snapping turtle's coming up to the campsite. It's so lovely. Well, why is it coming up to your campsite?
Yeah. He comes out and you see the head pop out of the water. He's staring at you, waiting for you to throw your food scraps.
Yeah,
so like, they're the underwater scavengers.
Like become habituated to people.
I know, right? And I go skinny dipping for the love of God.
Yeah. Just take the ring off first. Okay, another show. Anybody else have anything else that they'd like to share when it comes to food? I
would like to share my favorite cooking utensil, which is a silicone spatula. It's a little bit big, but it's not very heavy. And this thing will clean out every single drop of sauce in a pot. It's amazing, and I really love it. And it's my favorite utensil. That's all.
Cool. There's a Camper Christina tip. How about you, Mr. Callan? Do you have a final tip for everybody?
Well, final tip.
This will be difficult, right?
It's only 9:15, Dennis.
Oh no.
Okay, does everybody want to go till 9:30?
No.
I got no problem with
that.
No,
I gotta go to bed.
If we aim for now, we'll get off by 9:45, maybe.
Okay.
It's terrible. Well, no, I would just say make sure your food is nutritious. Make sure it's tasty. Make sure it's a huge part of your trip for everybody. It's not slop. And you can go for days and days and days if you do that. You won't even know if it's day 10 if you're making a blueberry pie in a reflector oven with brandy in it. Who really cares? You're just having a good time. Whereas opposed to, I can't wait till this trip is over. I can't eat oatmeal anymore.
Yep. Mr. Ride.
I guess I would say do whatever works for you. Like, my book is pretty hardcore dehydrating, but I've done all kinds of different techniques to bring food, whether it's fresh or whether it's store bought or whatever, or the meals that are made. Do whatever you need to do to get yourself out there and have fun with it. The food is a community experience. When you celebrate meals, holidays and birthdays and special days with your family, you get together and you have a meal. And so do the same thing, do whatever works. Have fun.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, if anybody's interested in picking up a copy of Backcountry Eats by Kevin down here, I do have a link to this in the description below. Feel free to check it out. You know what? This thing is a virtual Bible when it comes to dehydrating foods. He's got a ton of recipes, how to dehydrate, how to store, package, and everything else with so many different varieties of food. Things that you would think that you could not dehydrate, he's got in here. So that's really cool. Kevin, you also have your book. If you want to show it on screen, there's also a link to that down there as well. It's just an Amazon link, unless you have a better place for people to buy it. But I got to definitely order a copy of that myself. Christina, when's your book coming out?
No book. People keep asking me. I'm like, I have it all online. It's right there. It's free. Like, go for it.
Yeah. Another book I had, and she's been on past episodes, which I do have, I think, a couple of other past episodes on backcountry cooking. But Michaela Ferguson, she has digital versions of the Backcountry Cookbook, which is a really nice little read, all kinds of great food ideas in there. Yeah, you know what? Kevin has the library. He has the virtual library of books there. So by all means. Camper Christina, do you have a specific playlist for all your Camper Christina cooks?
Yep. It's called Camper Christina Cooks.
There you go. So that's all good. Kevin, Christina, thank you very much for coming on tonight. This has been a great chat. I know I got a lot of new great ideas for this year's canoe trips. I'm always happy when it comes to food because it is an integral part of my backcountry experience for sure. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.
Yep. We'll see you all in the gray room, in the green room in just a moment here. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's show as much as I did. I have an appetite now. I've been trying to cut back on my eating after the 6 o'clock hour because I got to get myself in shape for the canoe season, right? But yeah, you know what? It's kind of hard when food is so important to me, and I'm sure it is to many of you. You know what? I'd really like to see some of your great ideas. If you would like to share any recipes with me, you know what? I would be happy to take an email from you. And I'm just going to put my link on here again for right there. Drop me an email. Shoot me one of your recipes. You never know. Maybe I'll use it in one of my videos this summer because this summer I'm going to be getting back into planning or doing a lot more canoe tripping with videos to accompany them. So we're going to get back into more of my tripping videos as well as, and I've had so many people reaching out to me about my West Spanish Forest trip and how I haven't finished that series yet. Well, this magical stick right here is my hard drive out of my computer that went on me a couple months ago. We managed to recover it. I got some editing to do, and I'm going to be able to finish that series off. So keep an eye open for that. And then a bunch of other things coming down the pipe. So like I said, please do shoot me some of your recipes. I'd really like to see that. Maybe I'll share it with other people as well, and we'll go from there. Anyways, as a reminder, next week we do have a show on wilderness first aid. So you might want to make sure you tune into that one. Mark it in your calendars. I'll have it posted really early on my Facebook page on Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show up there. And yeah, make sure you save that under your to watch list next Tuesday evening. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a great week. You know what? Get all your gear in shape because the ice is gone in most places anyways. But you know what? We'll be out there paddling before you know it. It's great to see some canoeing videos already coming out. So everybody have a great week, and we'll talk